Welcome, welcome, welcome. Well, folks, got a question for you. Does Juan Soto regret signing with the New York Mets? Now, now why? Now, why would that even be a question? So early in the season, the New York Mets are 11 and 5. They're in first place in the NL East. They have the third best record in all of Major League Baseball. They've given up the least runs in with their pitching staff. Their pitching staff is doing phenomenal. Pete Alonso is hitting like an MVP behind Juan Soto. Juan Soto leads the Mets in runs scored. He leads the Mets in walks. He's hitting over 400 on base. But still, there's a problem. There's a problem in Queens. That's curious. All right, so we will look at the New York Post article and we will examine some of the Juan Soto comments that has caused a bit of controversy, caused a bit of emotional response from Mets fans. But who does this make happy? There's a story. Who does this make happy? Who does this make sad? Who does this make angry? All right, number one. This is geared toward making Yankee fans happy, right? I mean, who the hell cares about the Yankees? I mean, Juan Soto left them at the altar already, right? But Juan Soto apparently made comments about Aaron Judge. Very vanilla comments. Very, very, I would say honest comments, right? We want honesty from our players, but we're going to go through those comments, right? But now, 15 games in, when the Mets are in first place, let's dig deep. Let's dig deep. Let's try to figure out what's going on in Juan Soto's head. And Juan Soto he must regret picking the New York Mets. Why? Why? Because he made some honest comments? Because he's not hitting well? Because you're not seeing the Soto shuffle as often as you're like? I heard that one on the broadcast. Yeah, he must be upset about being a New York Met. He must miss the Bronx. All right, food for thought, but let's not get crazy here. Let's remember one thing, folks. This is a world class athlete, right? Who has put up decent numbers. I looked at Baseball Savant. Usually, Juan Soto in almost every category averages being in the 98th to 100th percentile every single stat. Right now, he's like 80th percentile, 85th, like well above the league average. So he's not doing horrible. But let's remember one thing. These comments that we're gonna get to, I saw actually a leader. I saw a leader. I saw a man being honest. I saw a man, obviously right now he's trying to find his footing. It's early, folks. It's early. Not every player gets off to a hot start. Not every player. Pete Alonso, yes, he's gotten off to a hot start. But as Francisco Lindor looks pretty ordinary in April and May. If he played every April and May, and that was the way he played throughout the rest of the season, I mean, he wouldn't. Honestly, he wouldn't even be a league average player. He wouldn't be a league average player. So every player gets hot at different times. It happens. It's normal. The man just signed a new contract and he's trying to settle in. He's got a lot of expectations on his back, and yet he is still doing well. He's still doing well. All right. I'm gonna play devil's advocate. I'm gonna throw a couple arguments at the on the other side of this, but let's look at some of the comments. And you give credit because Juan Soto was asked this question. He was asked a set of questions, and you know what? This has elicited a lot of emotion. You heard on WFAN, think it was BT and Sal Licata, oh my God, they're jumping off a building on Juan Soto. Evan Roberts, I listened to his reaction. He was a bit more a bit more rational. But let's look at what happened. So Juan Soto opens up to the post about pitcher's new approach without the best hitter in baseball behind him. Okay, so, with roughly 10% of the season complete, the all-star outfielder had these numbers on his stat line as the play began on Monday. He had a 409 on base, he had one homer and 4 RBIs. We all know yesterday he had that 2-run homer, so now he has 2 home runs, 6 RBIs, and over 400 on base. Okay, one thing is certain, he's not getting pitched the same as last season when he had Aaron Judge hitting behind him in the lineup. So then the question was posed to Juan Soto about, are things different? And Juan Soto said it's definitely different. Soto told the Post before the Mets faced the Twins, I had the best hitter in baseball hitting behind me. I was getting more attacked and more pitches in the strike zone, less intentional walks, and things like that. I was pitched differently last year. Okay, folks, people are going nuts over that paragraph. Why'd he say it? What is he insinuating? Oh my God, he wants to be a Yankee. Juan Soto is extremely intelligent. Juan Soto knew when he signed with the Mets that Aaron Judge would not be here. He knew that pitchers would most likely pitch him differently. This is not a surprise. What he's doing is giving you an inside synopsis of how pitchers are pitching him. He's being honest with you. Yes, Yankee fans, they want to make it seem like he wants to be a Yankee and now he's upset. Of course, they lost Juan Soto. They're not feeling happy. They could barely pitch. Aaron Judge is the only legit offensive weapon in that lineup. He's getting older. It stinks to lose a 26-year-old superstar. That's plain and simple. It stinks. All right. Okay. All right. But, I got to give him credit. I got to give him credit for being honest. I got to, look at the media and say, all right, is it your job to stretch things? Is it your job to make something bigger than what it is? Well, probably you're in the business of selling news, selling whatever, whatever media business you're in. You want interest. You want eyeballs. So you want to make things more than what it is. But let's not get crazy. Okay. All right, folks, let's get real here. Let's get real. All right, so Soto's 14 walks were tied for third in MLB entering the day. 2 of those walks were intentional. At this point, opposing pitchers are content taking their chances with Pete Alonso, who has largely benefited from that decision. Alonso entered play with almost an 1100 OPS and has delivered several game-changing hits. Again, more comments. Soto says, I would say I am getting a decent amount of strike, but there's some specific situations where pitchers don't attack. All right, folks, let's look at this. Now, this is basically saying that pitchers would rather face Pete Alonso. And I think early on, if you're a pitcher, that had to be the strategy. But in the last couple games, Juan Soto's swing has not been there. Juan Soto has taken a lot of close pitches to work the count and to eventually get on base. Only 2 intentional walks. It's not like this guy has 10 intentional walks and everybody's intentionally trying to get to Pete Alonso. It's happened twice. Juan Soto happens to have a good eye and he happens to not be in a good hitting mode. So that's why he's getting a lot of walks. Yes, maybe some pitchers aren't attacking, or maybe some pitchers are just wild. Maybe we're not facing the upper echelon of pitchers yet. Did you think of that? Did you think that maybe the Blue Jays, maybe the Astros, maybe the Marlins aren't the best of the best pitchers? Did you think of that? So Juan Soto has not faced those upper echelon pitchers. He hasn't been able to take advantage. He's slumping now. He is slumping now. But do I think right now that pitchers are seeing Pete as one of the hottest pitchers hottest hitters in baseball and saying, you know what? I want that guy. I want that guy. You know, early on, yes, prove it to me. But right now, it's blatantly obvious that Pete Alonso is going through a transformation. The guy is becoming more of a complete hitter. He stands straighter in the box. Pete Alonso, you can tell, probably built his legs up. The guy looks a lot stronger. The guy looks a lot more confident. The guy is a whole different hitter. Pitchers see that. They're not dumb. Just because things are played out this way doesn't mean the insinuation are real. Doesn't mean pitchers would rather face Alonso in all of these situations. I mean, honestly, right now, you know, it's really kind of dumb. Like, Juan Soto is not hot right now until he starts proving that he has the hot bat. I mean, you know, you got to probably pass the baton or go after Lindor, go after Nimmo, or even go after Soto. Make Soto beat you. I mean, I look at the pitchers. Why are you walking this guy 16 times and the guy is, you know, batting 250? Make him beat you. So that is more on the pitchers. As far as him giving credit to Aaron Judge as being the best hitter in all of baseball, okay, Aaron Judge happens to be the best hitter in baseball. Him and Shohei Ohtani are in that elite class. And then you have a drop-off. Pete Alonso. Reason why I went crazy about Pete Alonso last year is because I knew Pete Alonso had an ability to take it to that next level and beyond. And Pete Alonso has done that early on. But am I going to get mad at Juan Soto for him being honest, for him reflecting, for him getting inside the mind, giving you that insightful, that, you know, synopsis of a very high IQ savant at the plate, how he thinks? Now let's get into some more of his comments because he is a leader. He is a leader, and you're going to see that. So, Soto's success as a hitter is predicated upon plate discipline, and he isn't about to stray from that approach, and rightfully so. And he goes on to say, I feel like I'm trying to do the same, be the same, do damage when I can, and whenever they want to attack me, I take my chances, and when they don't, I take my walk. Soto said, I'm not trying to be selfish or anything and try to hit homers every time. I'm just trying to take my pitches, take my swings whenever I can, and when they don't want to, I pass the baton to my teammates. Okay, so then he goes on to say, everybody has got a role, and I feel as a team, we have to attack pitchers as a team, Soto said. We don't have to attack the pitchers as individuals. If they don't want to pitch to me, I pass the baton and let Alonso do his thing. If they don't want to pitch to him, he should do the same. Folks, this is a philosophy. This is a strategy. He's telling you, Alonso should do the same as me. If the pitchers aren't throwing me in the strike zone, I'm not going to expand the strike zone. That was what Pete was doing last year. I think having Soto, such a disciplined hitter in front of Pete, is doing wonders. It's doing wonders for Pete. But he is telling Nimmo, he's telling Vientos, don't expand the strike zone. Take what pitchers are giving to you. And if it's a walk, that's fine. We have a whole slew of good hitters in our lineup. Good, capable hitters. That is what Soto is saying here, Eric Chavez downplayed Soto's low homer total in mid-April. Soto's homer drought entering play was 13 games. It just means there's a whole bunch of homers coming, Chavez said. It's April. It's cold. He's getting used to the new team and trying to figure out his routine. He's walking a lot. He's going to pile up the numbers. Well said. Okay. Okay, so a lot of the internal Mets, Mendoza, Chavez, everybody knows that Soto is going to put up the numbers. Everybody knows he's going to put up the numbers. It is blatantly obvious. The guy Juan Soto is an elite hitter. He's an elite hitter. When he was down in Florida, I know he's also with spring training, but he was romping. The weather was nice. It was his body was probably loose. He was in a nice routine. It's going to happen, folks. It's going to happen very, very soon. You're going to see an elite hitter in the beginning of a lineup. All right? I mean, here's the question. Here's the question, folks. Now, I said I was going to play devil's advocate. I said I'm going to give the other side. Now, I'm more of this is much to do about nothing, right? That's my opinion. And by the way, if you could like, subscribe, all the good stuff, MLB fans, Mets fans, passionate Mets fans, this is your channel. Like and subscribe. Okay, so let's give a little bit of devil's advocate. And I saw this from actually a Met fan. They said that Juan Soto making these quotes is probably because he is really looking what's around him. And besides Pete, it could be construed that there's not much. You know, Lindor's struggling. Nimmo's hot and cold. I mean, he hasn't really gotten it going. Vientos has been struggling. Acuna's starting to get it going at the end of the lineup. But, you have, the main guys, Lindor specifically, not really getting it going right now, right? You got one guy, Pete Alonso. And Pete Alonso is rumored to potentially leave after this year. Leave. So, I mean, Juan Soto's, is he sending a message to ownership? Last year, I was productive because I had Juan Soto. This year, I have Pete Alonso. We better make sure that maybe I've seen things out there. Maybe this was a suggestion that, we should get Pete Alonso signed up because Juan Soto, to be successful, needs that type of hitter behind him. And if you take out a Pete Alonso, the lineup drastically changes. I mean, Pete could, you could argue that Pete is responsible for 3 or 4 early wins this year. That if Pete wasn't on the team or the Mets didn't make that signing, instead of 11-5, the Mets could have a whole different record. So, I mean, you don't want to think that way, but there is always many ways to analyze. There's different ways to slice things. And I think, Juan Soto, again, he's the savant. He's letting you inside. He's giving you an inside piece of how he's thinking. And I think we are very lucky to hear that. And I think we take from this. I think he's showing you that in a lineup, it's very important to have protection. Very important to have protection. And if you're a Mets fan, how many times, I mean, the last couple of years, how many times last year, year before that, I said Pete Alonso hasn't had the proper protection. Can anybody say Daniel Vogelbach? Can anybody say Vogelbach? He was protection for Pete Alonso. What a freaking joke. What a freaking joke. Jeff McNeil some of the time. I mean, Mark Vientos thankfully started to come on as a legit hitter. But Juan Soto, is he projecting, hey, it is super important for us to have protection, for me to have protection? I had Judge. Now I have Pete Alonso. No slight on Pete, but Judge was the best in the biz right now, and Judge is getting older. So is Pete, but Judge is a bit older. All right, folks. So again, I want to keep it to about 20 minutes. Let me know what you think. Is it time to panic? Is it time to be concerned? Like, what am I missing? And let me know. For people who are concerned, where am I missing the mark? I'm not concerned. It's so damn early, and the Mets are winning despite Juan Soto not being hot. Now, I will say one thing. When I watched Juan Soto last night, his first three at bats before he hit the two-run homer, didn't look too great. Did not look too great. He did hit a very deep foul ball, but you could tell his timing was off. But more than that, I think Keith Hernandez, he was the one who said, "Hey, we're not seeing the Soto shuffle. What's going on? Is he feeling good? This and that." But it just didn't look like he was comfortable, and I think that's what it is. It was cold. It was cold. I believe it was raining yesterday. I think, Juan Soto is not comfortable. That's what I would say. He's not comfortable. So that's not why you're not seeing the typical Juan Soto demeanor, the typical Juan Soto in-game actions. But yeah, I'll agree. I didn't, his body language yesterday kind of looked a bit off. It did look a bit off, but I've seen that with many players throughout the years. And, if you're just not feeling it, I've seen it with Lindor a lot of times. But Lindor gets hot and Lindor gets right. And, we're off to the races. I've seen it throughout the years with many players. I don't think it's anything to worry about. I mean, if 3-4 months, if we're in midsummer and, Juan Soto's still hitting, 240 and, he's got 10 home runs, and not driving in the runs, then we'll talk. But right now, there's really nothing to worry about. In fact, we should take pride. The New York Mets starters are elite. The bullpen's really doing a yeoman's job. Jose Siri, he has unfortunately a bit of an injury, so we're going to have to work that position out. Tyrone Taylor is obviously going to get a lot more playing time. He's going to need to continue to step up, but that's fine. I mean, we needed more hitting from center field. I think Taylor's going to do a fine job defensively. Let's see. You hear things about Luis Angel Acuna potentially playing center field when McNeil comes back. So we'll have to see what Mendoza has in his bag. And I think the Mets want to be ultra flexible in the field. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a move like Acuna going a second. Brett Beatty potentially backing up second base. But of course, Brett Beatty would need to be a lot more consistent, obviously. Mania looks like he's made a couple steps in the right direction. He's going to be throwing in the next couple days and seeing how the next day after he throws, how is he going to feel? Is he going to have pain, discomfort, soreness, stiffness? If he feels good, maybe we see him at mid-May. Obviously, the best case scenario would have been late April, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen based on a setback that he did have. So we will see. But, the Mets and Mets fans have to be ultra happy, ultra satisfied. I think the sky's the limit from this team. You see all across baseball, even the LA Dodgers, they're not invincible. Every team has their issues. The Mets, what they have to remain is they have to remain a tough out. If the teams right now playing the Mets, even though they are not top teams, they know that they have to bring the A++ game to beat the New York Mets. Yesterday didn't happen with the Twins. The Twins played horrible, and the Mets won a fairly easy matchup, winning 5-1. The Mets, Kodai Senga 2 games ago, looking solid, all-star-like performance. Clay Holmes, again, yesterday, pitching 5 strong innings, 8 strikeouts after following up a 10-strikeout game. You like to see that the Mets are putting this rotation, this stud rotation of Peterson, Clay Holmes, Kodai Senga, even Tyler McGill. I mean, it kind of looks like once Mania or maybe Montaz is back, it looks like Griffin Canning will be the easily odd man out. But Canning, when you sign him for that $4 million, had a couple solid starts. It just seems like he doesn't really have the stuff. Back to Clay Holmes, I was happy to see him get through 5 innings. It's been an issue. Can he extend himself? I mean, he's great through 4 innings. I mean, he started off the game striking out the side. Kick change was sharp. He's getting guys to strike out looking. Byron Buxton struck out looking. So, early on, first 3-4 innings, his stuff is sharp. It seems like he tires in the 5th inning. Yet he was able to pull through. That was great. But I think that is something not to worry about. He's been a reliever for the last 4 or 5 years. The guy's got to gradually build himself up. I believe he's still in that process. So, it's good that he was able to battle. That's good. And the Mets are, again, establishing a very solid rotation. I mean, the Yankees would love to have a guy like Clay Holmes, in that rotation right now. The stuff is there, the talent is there, and he will gradually build up his stamina. Not to worry, not to worry. I mean, there's really not too much to worry about. I mean, I would say probably one of the big concerns is you have Edwin Diaz. Is he going to somehow get to? I mean, it's hard to say 2022 because that was one of the most dominant performances ever. But is he going to be like a solid, semi-dominant closer? Can we rely and ever get him at that type of level? We're gonna hope so. We're really gonna hope so. I need to see more. I need to see more. We all know that relievers can be up and down, but if they have similar stuff to the year before, we should have similar expectations. But that's not always the case. That's not always the case. All right, folks, let me know your thoughts thus far. The first 16 games, the Mets are 11-5, third best record in baseball, first place in the NL East. And I think that this is the sky's the limit. The Mets have not still anywhere close to where they could be potential wise. Juan Soto's not anywhere close to the player or the production that we will expect from him. And everybody, Francisco Lindor, Brandon Nimmo, Mark Vientos, everybody has so much more left in the tank to give. And then you got all your guys on not all your guys on the injured list. You still got bunch of talented players coming back soon. Luis Torrens, I think you got to say early on that the Mets really, really got something with this guy. 28-year-old catcher. I mean, it looks like he can kind of do it all. And, hitting, having some very impressive at bats early on. And then the way he controls the running game with that gun behind the plate. That is such an important. It's such an important to have two catchers these days. So important, so important. So again, I went a lot longer than I wanted to go. Let's go Mets. Like, subscribe. I will speak to everybody very soon. And thank you as always for all the comments, all the good stuff. Thank you.